Most of us are born with a quote-unquote normal attachment system to seek proximity and security with attachment figures. When our attachment figures are available, when they're attuned and responsive to our efforts to establish proximity, we're likely to feel secure and to believe that the world is safe and that seeking proximity is a healthy, effective means of emotional regulation and distress management. It's from this secure base that we start to explore our environment and engage with others with curiosity and with confidence. If, however, attachment figures are unresponsive to our bids for proximity, whether they're physically or emotionally unavailable, or perhaps they're just not equipped for some reason to witness our distress, we doubt our ability to attain security. We question whether the world is safe and whether we can trust others in times of need, whether we can navigate our own emotions safely. And that's when we may resort to some secondary attachment styles, such as hyperactivation and deactivation of our attachment systems. Hyperactivating strategies are associated with our fight and our fawn responses, so think extreme people-pleasing, and they're commonly linked to inconsistency of some kind on the attachment figure's part. Sometimes they're responsive to our proximity attempts, and sometimes they're not. Hyperactivating strategies are typically seen in anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidant attachment styles, and they might include clinginess, trying to provoke expressions of care, criticism, even spitefulness. Due to their occasional success, these hyperactivating strategies may feel increasingly natural and even necessary for us to attain proximity and security. In reality, they often increase conflict and emotional upheaval in relationships. Deactivating strategies, on the other hand, are associated with our flight and freeze responses, and they're commonly linked to some sort of disapproval or emotional distance on the attachment figure's part, as well as repression of expressing needs and vulnerability. Deactivating strategies are commonly seen in dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant attachment styles, and they may include withdrawing, stonewalling, ignoring. The deactivating individual is less likely to seek proximity and security from an attachment figure, even when they're under threat, even when they feel in danger. They believe that hyper-independence is the best way to avoid hurt and frustration. If you recognize yourself in any of these secondary attachment strategies, it's absolutely possible to rewrite even the most deeply ingrained insecure attachment scripts. First, start to make friends with your nervous system. There are simple embodied tools you can use to begin to feel safer both in your body and in connection to others. I believe simplicity is key. A dysregulated system typically needs a lot of slowness and a lot of softness rather than every trick in the book thrown at it. If you lean towards hyperactivating strategies, how aware are you of your own needs? Your homework may include to start to recognize your own needs and where you can meet some of them for yourself. And far from threatening connection, learning to meet your own needs teaches us to fill up our own cup so that when we approach relationships, it's in a healthier, interdependent way rather than a self-abandoning, co-dependent way. Then build awareness of your own communication patterns. Without realizing, many APs and FAs in hyperactivation mode can expect attachment figures to read their mind. So how might you take small incremental steps to communicate your needs from a more confident and regulated place? And let me just say, this work can feel really scary to begin with, but it's a muscle that must be exercised. And if you're overwhelmed at the idea of going straight to a primary attachment figure, is there another secure person or even an attachment coach in your life who can act as a guinea pig of sorts as you build your confidence? If you lean towards deactivating strategies, are you operating with a deep belief, perhaps even a core wound, that you're incapable of change? Your homework may be to look for examples of where you've been able to adapt and change in the past. What did that look like? How did it benefit you? Did it ultimately feel good, albeit perhaps uncomfortable at times? Then start to take small incremental steps towards seeking proximity to a trusted, secure person in your life or an attachment coach. And note, if there are attachment figures in your life who themselves are operating under insecure attachment patterns, it's okay not to dive straight into rewriting your attachment scripts with them. Again, think of this work as a muscle that you've exercised. Set yourself up for success by starting with someone who you know is themselves emotionally regulated and perhaps a good communicator. they're more likely to take your proximity attempts at face value rather than layering on their own beliefs or core wounds. In my own journey towards moving from strong fearful avoidant tendencies to becoming more securely attached, I experienced both hyperactivating and deactivating strategies. And while I was initially learning to express my needs and boundaries in a proactive rather than a reactive way, something I really historically struggled with and which made me feel deeply unsafe, I started this work with friends, with partners, with colleagues who were fairly even keel, were emotionally regulated, were good communicators. Each time they responded to my needs and boundaries in a healthy and validating way, it helped me to rewire these old scripts. It taught me that there is safety in expressing myself and that it could actually strengthen connection rather than threaten it, particularly as I was showing up more and more authentically. As my confidence in these new proximity attempting techniques grew, as I strengthened that muscle, I also became more proactive at expressing needs and boundaries with attachment figures I knew had their own insecure attachment patterns. If and when they responded through the prism of their own core wounding, for example, seeing my needs and boundaries as rejection, or freezing and changing the subject when I expressed upset, I was by now familiar enough with the process to see that their response was perhaps more to do with their own capacity at that time and not because my needs or boundaries were inherently bad or unsafe or in some way too much. If this has resonated with you, if you think that you're operating some own secondary attachment strategies, then I offer a 20-minute free discovery call to talk about attachment and attachment coaching. Feel free to get in touch. Feel free to drop me a DM. Thank you for your time.